Hello geeks, freaks, and spooky fiends, how you doing? Well, today, as promised, the continuation of this Tinkerbell saga is underway. I will be showing you how I sufferingly got to take apart my wings and put them back together so that they could be version 2.0, exactly like I want. Sit back, relax, and let's get crafty. Even Odie's super excited to get these things torn to pieces, so let's do him a favor and strip these guys down to bare bones. Shall we? There we go, that's what it looks like. Isn't it crazy? I thought they were fused, but they weren't. So what I'm gonna use today is I'm actually going to use scissors, clamps, I'm gonna call them pincers, and we're also gonna use some 22 gauge wire. The 22 gauge wire I basically fold it in two and then I spin it and make this like really thicker wire. As you can see, it is quite cute, and then I find it's just more malleable, but also thick enough for me to be able to make these kind of mini details, because if not it becomes really annoying. So that first wing that you saw was actually the finished product of my first try, and I was very, very happy with it. So I'm showing you the right side of the wings and how I actually did the left side. So as you can see, I take this thicker gauged wire that I had used on my project originally, and I'm kind of just trying to estimate the length of the wing and the spiral that I want. And you always want to have a little bit extra give, obviously, because you're going to have to take this wire afterwards and use those wire clamps, I guess, and twirl them around the big structure as tightly as you can so it does not move. You're going to see it actually creates these beautiful spirals, to hold on nice and tight. And honestly, once metal is spiraled like that, it is not moving, like at all. So you gotta think ahead when you're making these things. Originally, what I had done to make my wings, because this is more of like a refurbishing video, to be honest, and how I refurbished my old wings, I basically took a giant piece of cardboard and I drew out my Tinkerbell wings, and how I wanted them to look and how big I wanted them, and I would actually lie beside this piece of cardboard, and then I would kind of continue if I liked the height of it, and then I took all this wire and I placed it on top of that tracing that I made on this cardboard to make the shape of my wings. On the outside, I used a really thick gauge. I cannot remember what the gauge is, but it was quite something. And then on the inside, I used this slightly thinner gauge, which makes it a lot more malleable. If you want to ruin your hands, you can do exactly what I did. But if you don't want to ruin your hands, maybe use a thinner gauge. So here I'm kind of just using my right hand to hold it in place, and then I'm using my left hand to mold it. Because if you don't hold the one side and then mold with both sides, it kind of ends up being more bumpy instead of round. And I really want to make sure that I don't get all these weird kind of concave spots everywhere. So I'm just making sure that the areas that I want stay straight, and then everything that is bending will be bent with the left. So I just kind of overlay it to make sure that it's mirrored, it's exactly as I want it to be. I take my other one that I already pre-did before I started recording this video, and I'm just making sure that it looks the same, because I'm a perfectionist and I need things to be perfectly mirrored. So yeah, I'm actually going to take that other wing and I'm gonna overlay it on top of this one to see if they kind of match up, because I don't want the both sides to look too different. I know perfection is unattainable. However, I would at least like things to look at least symmetrical on either side. See? So if that fits well on the other one, then I'm comfortable to say that I am going to like it for the second side, so the left side. So just making sure it's all aligned, I'm like, yeah, perfect, is good, is nice. I put it aside, and then I get ready to strip the other side down so that I can replace this middle nasty wire that's covered in thick duct tape and metallic silvery ribbon that you use for Christmas gifts. Because yes, I put duct tape and then I put glue on top of the duct tape to then wrap it with a silver wire because I had no silver paint. And I was too broke to buy any of that kind of stuff back then. And so we did what we could with what we had, okay? It was my first project, my first big structure project, so it's fine. But yeah, so now what I'm doing is I'm making sure that they both look slightly similar, in the sense that I am bending them to both be slightly symmetrical in shape, because as you can see, the wires don't connect. And I mean, look, that's fine. What I did was I actually took some of that other gauged wire that I'm actually working with for the spirals, and I duct taped a piece of it going from that left side that you see and tracing it over to the right side and then twisting it with the pliers around the outer structure and then duct taping that again so that it could all be connected. You'll see it later, trust me. And then what I did was I wanted to make that little teardrop boobula thing. So the little ploop, that little ploop thing, that I want to make sure that it's the same size as the other teardrop side. So I'm just gonna take the wire and I'm going to bend it to make that teardrop structure. Again, I just try and make things as straight as possible. I don't want it to be too bendy. And then I just kind of snag it into place as much as I can so that it could make this crisscross. And then once that crisscross is perfect, and I like where it's at, I actually take the gauge from on top, so the gauge pointing upward, that's vertical, and I will fold it over the horizontal gauge because I want them to stay exactly where I want them, and clearly the horizontal gauge likes to move upward, and I don't want that. So there you go, you take the plier, you bend it so that it can kind of be flush or more or less flush, and then you kind of squeeze it as much as you can to make it flusher. And there you go, you got a little teardrop shape. And those extra little bits on the outside, like I said, always give yourself an allowance because you're going to take those pieces of gauge and you're actually going to wrap them around the structure, okay? So here we go. What you're going to do is you're going to, as you can see, like, look at the difference between the tape. It's disgusting. Anyway, so instead of using your fingers, like I did for the first pair, because I'm crazy and I like to hurt myself and ruin my fingers, instead of doing this, don't do that. Do this. Take your pliers, grab out of the inside where the tape is, and then rip it out. Trust me, your fingers will thank you. Also, do not laugh at the way that I hold my tools. I know how to hold a tool, okay? This was just really annoying and I had to figure out a way to get it stable enough and rip them out. So the floor it was, and this weird holding thing was what I had to do, okay? Some people hold their pencils weird. I hold my tools weird. Don't judge me. We're all freaks here. So, once that ugly little bugger is gone, you just kind of whoop, yeet them aside, place the new beautiful structure on top. See how much allowance I have there? All of that is going to be twisted around the outside structure in order to hold it. I'm just gonna bend it quick with my fingy so I know where it's going, and then I use the pliers to then twist it all around. Once you're happy with the amount that's twisted, you could just cut out the excess. There you go. And there you go. It's all done. You have your innermost structure. Then you could build off of that innermost structure. So as you can see, she's a little too close, so I'm just bending her outward because she needs to have a bit of a space. So once that is perfected, all is going to be well. So here we go. I found the exact length that I wanted it at. What I do is I just take this excess, like the little wires now, to make the tiny detail with that 22 gauge that I said that I fold and then twist into this like harder structure, and then I just kind of twist it all around the innermost structure where it's supposed to go. And to make it even tighter, that's when I use a plier to really get it stuck. And then what I do, because this 22 gauge wire was kind of flimsy even after making it slightly thicker by folding and twisting it, I ended up just taking the pliers, flattening them, so squishing them flat, and then made it nice and durable, let's say. So here you go, these are the spirals that end up being created after using your pliers. And what I did was, in order to make it look even prettier, I took this metallic tape that you could find really at any depot store or home renovation store, and put it on top of it just so it could look more unified with the actual structure and you don't see these little spirals all over the place. It makes it look a lot prettier. It's just an aesthetic thing. So there's your before, there's your after. That's my ugly duct tape. This is my nice pretty duct tape. There's a huge difference. Even bigger difference now with the top wings. Let's go. So find yourself an adult, please, or be an adult if you are an adult. Do adulting. If not, please find an adult so that you can use a boxcutter to then rip all of these duct tape ribbon glue things that you made, specifically that I made, because I hate myself. And, you know, I didn't know any better back then, and that's fine. We learn from our creations, and we find ways of improving. So you just remove all that, toss it in the garbage, and what I did was I kind of kept one side taped, and then I left the other side not taped, in order to kind of keep that picture in my head. And then this is the wire that I fold and then I twist. So you see how much thicker it becomes instead of being that tiny 22 gauge wire? And it makes it so much easier to do the small details on these things, because using thicker wire to make small details like these little inner veins is the bane of your existence. Do not do it. Just don't. Learn from my mistakes. Alright, so here's the finished result. There you have the silver tape that I put on top just to make it look more together, and you see already it's so much thinner than the duct tape and it's so much shinier. And what I want is I want to actually make sure that the structure of these wings is silvery, because I like the way that it shows through the cellophane after. So this is the finished result. What I did was that big holder piece that goes in your dress, I took that piece off, and then I realized it was two pieces, but you don't need two pieces. This thing is solid as heck because it's a thick gauge. So I literally just took one piece of that thing and then I taped it as a structure to hold all four pieces of the wings together. And afterwards, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to make sure everything is nice and silver with this nice little ink that I found at Michael's. It's an acrylic ink pen that you could just paint anything with. It dried nicely, it was nice, and here we go. So this is the cellophane part. This is the absolute awful part. You thought the wiring was bad, the cellophane is even worse, because you gotta find ways, unless you're okay with it. And honestly, in the States, there's some nicer glue, especially also in the other side of the pond, okay? The glue there, the spray can glue, dries clear and it's nice. And you don't have to worry about spraying it on cellophane because it doesn't look ugly. Here we have really crappy glue, and if you want to get this cellophane to stay this pretty and clear, you're gonna have to be real careful with the way that you do this. So you cut it horizontally to the length that you need. I did it from tip of wing to the bottom wing, and then I cut it in half because I don't like to waste anything. So there you go. And then I use these foam cylinder things that I got from a New Year's Eve party that have lights in them. I removed the lights, and I'm using it to roll out those sheets of cellophane. So I'm just showing you in detail everything because afterwards I did a big boo-boo and I realized it. I forgot to tape with the silver tape the inside of my wing. So everywhere that you see that dark gray tape ended up being covered with silver tape afterwards. But essentially here I wanted to show you, after spraying and layering that one layer on top, what you want to do is you want to cut around the cellophane in the wings while leaving at least like an inch and a bit more of seam allowance, let's say. So we're gonna call this cellophane allowance. And what I'm doing here is I'm just making sure that it's stuck. So I kind of like roll it a bit, I give it a little massage, and yeah, that's fun. So there's the beautiful canister of glue that I'm using. It's the only quick dry adhesive glue that we have here. It's like a weird discount brand adhesive glue, and it's the only one that's quick dry and sticks like tacky. So I am using that. At some point you'll see that I started using Elmer's glue as a spray adhesive, and I regretted my life decisions because that Elmer's glue was so watery and not sticky at all that I just said, yeah, no, screw this. I'm just gonna pass everything over with this one non-branded adhesive. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your knife, and I decided I'm going to cut this little triangle in. Again, don't worry because this is just the first sheet that's going on, okay? There's 2 layers to this, and this is just the first sheet on the back side. By back side, I mean the side that's gonna touch my back. And I kind of just take the excess from that triangle that I just cut out, and I roll it around the inner structure, and then I take the other sides and roll them under the inner structure, like the wing structure. So you have your big guy that's at least going to get wrapped, and then you have your 2 wings that will end up also being wrapped. Next, I went over all the spots that did not glue properly. I just kind of took this can, put it as close as possible, didn't spray it very hard so it could like drip out, and then I kind of massaged it into place. I just want to make sure that it sticks, and I even massage it a little bit under so that it spreads the glue under the wing, so that way the other side could have already a bit of the cellophane stuck on it, because you're going to actually go over on the other side and then make another layer. So this is the whole process sped up because I realized I screwed up. And this is after I put all that silver tape on the innermost structure. And then here you are, you can see that I'm going little by little. This is the other side now, okay? So this is the first layer still, but now you're on the opposite side of what I was doing. And as you can see, I'm going over it with this little foam brush. I'm spraying on the cardboard and then also on the foam brush to then dip that, and then I roll it out because I rolled the extra sheets onto these foam things, right? And then I kind of just take the foam brush, put it over the wires, and then I continue slowly. The reason why I did this was because I didn't want to spray this glue on top of it, because then the cellophane would look really ugly and spotty, and I didn't want that. So I made myself do this super slowly. So here you go. This is the second layer that's going on top, okay? And you could do as many layers as you want. Honestly, some people do like 5 layers of cellophane. I might end up adding more. This is just the second layer. Who knows? If I have time, maybe I'll do like a third or a fourth layer. So then I just take this piece of cardboard because I became so much more productive all of a sudden, and I covered up the inside of the wing because again, I don't want to spray the inside of the wing because then it's gonna look ugly and spotty with the glue. And I just layer on top the other piece that I had cut out with that little roller I created, and I stick both sheets together to make this sandwich. And that's okay because the sandwiching and the extra glue that ends up on the outer layer ends up gluing both sheets together, so it makes it so much easier to do the seam allowance part, right? Because now both layers are sandwiched, they're nice, they're stuck together, all is well, and you don't have to worry too much about losing your sheets and like not cutting it right. So there you go. And then everywhere where it didn't stick exactly as I wanted onto the wire, I kind of just opened the sheets up and then I sprayed. And then I massaged it closed. So there you go. This is literally the process, and you go over and over and over again. Yes, making wings is very tedious. I don't know how some people do this in like 20 minutes. This is kind of insane. So then what you're going to do is you're going to take a blow dryer and you're going to blow dry these guys. Why? Because by blow drying it and exposing your wings to heat, the cellophane to heat, it actually shrink wraps this stuff. I don't use a heat gun because it makes holes in it sometimes, but you can if you want.
So, I turned my wings into lungs. Yeah, I did. Here, check.
Anyway, so once all of that is done, I take a lighter and I actually burn the outside of the cellophane to fuse the plastic together. Please do this by yourself. If you're a child, get an adult. If you're an adult, please don't burn yourself or give it to a child. So yeah, have fun with fire. See, I just let it burn and I blow it out if it catches fire, because yes, that's a possibility. It can catch fire, so please be careful. And then trim off the excess, okay? And there you have it. All is done. All is done, and it looks pretty, and it looks so much cleaner than it used to be. Oh my god, I'm so happy with the way that they look. Thank you for watching this. I'm gonna go sleep.